Hello, everyone, and welcome to another. I think we're calling it Friday Night Flight Schools or X-Wing Friday Flight School, something stupid like that. You know, it's got to have a hook. But today we're going to have a quick look at range bands, the range ruler, how it interacts with the ship sizes and the movements and stuff like that. So I've got a quick demonstration thing set up. So again, it's all on the Vassal interface, so hopefully you can see it okay. So we've got a range ruler laid out. As we know, range 1, 2 and 3, if you're getting shot, you don't be at range 1. If you're doing the shooting, it's good. So, as we discussed on the previous episode, the base sizes, base 2, a speed 2 maneuver is the same as a large base ship or small base ship's speed 1. So we can break the range ruler down into roughly 2.5 base length sections. There's 3 sections, so it is 7.5 base lengths long, roughly. And that is interesting for a couple of ways. It means that to actually get out of a range band, you need to do more than a 1 forwards. So TIE fighters, good. Y-wings, not so much. You also have to take into account that you move back, front to back. So, for example, if the shuttle really had the hots for this Y-wing, this A-wing, and managed to get into this position, bump into the back of it, for some reason he moved first. I should have maybe not put Power School 2 on. It's got a crit. Power School 0. It's nice and easy. Fixed. So the shuttle is in this position. The A-wing wants to get out of the range. So 7.5 base lengths. Easy for an A-wing. You've got the 1 base length because it bumped into the back of you. So no matter what you do, you've already got 1. The 5 forwards takes you to 6 base lengths. 7 base lengths if you're going to boost. And that's 8 because you go front to back. So you get out of position. It's interesting looking at the fact that you have that 7.5 base lengths, especially when you're coming towards each other. Again, front to back movement becomes really important. You have to consider, and this is especially pertinent if you have HLCs or any ordnance, things like that. You've only got 5 base lengths to play with. If you're only just outside, so pretend the A-wing's flying backwards for a moment. So if you're in this position, any move so if you're in that position, any move is going to take you out of range 3. It only gets made even worse when you consider that the slowest the shuttle can go without stopping is 3 base lengths forwards. So the chances are you're going to be at a range 1 next turn. There's no move you can do to guarantee yourself range 2 for any missiles, and it just gets difficult. So wings don't even have a 1, so yeah. And that's why having the all stop on the shuttle and things like that, the ability to slow roll, become really important. So you can see there should be one. Yeah. So in this instance, the A-wing moves first. So the A-wing could have boosted to guarantee you a block. There's nothing the shuttle could have done apart from stop. Obviously, it's a shuttle. It's just the ship I picked out. But you're guaranteeing yourself that range 1 exchange, which can be good, can be bad. It's something you need to be aware of. In a head-to-head joust, you want to make sure you know how far outside of each range band you need to drop to get into a next range band, if that makes sense. So if you're looking for that range 1 exchange, that's a perfectly good approach. If you're trying to skirt a range band, it gets a lot harder. So I'll zoom out again and try and give you an example. So this is going to go on to a rule of 11 now. So this is one of the best things about using Vassal for these demonstrations. So this grid pattern is range 1 from the edges for the deployment areas, and then a range 2 block in the middle so you can find out for asteroid placements and all that kind of stuff. And what the rule of 11 means, it revolves around both players deploying on the range 1 line, and then the interaction between the firing arcs. Where's it gone? So evidently both ships are out of range of each other before the game starts. The rule of 11 is that to get the opponent into range 3, you need to cover 11 base lengths. So, as we've already established, you move front to back. So, whatever move you dial in is going to have +1 added to it. So, if the A-wing goes 5, that becomes 6 because of the size of the base. And if a shuttle does a 3, that becomes a 4, 5 because of the size of the base. Yep, I knew I'd got these ones out for a reason. And that's fine, so we'll do these moves just to demonstrate. So there's a 3 forwards, and a 5 forwards. So 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you are in range of each other. So if you want to ensure that your shuttle can't get shot in turn 1 and you're against something that can do a 5, you can't dial in a 3. If the ship that you're flying against can do a 5 and has a boost, it gets even trickier. So this is all about how you try and defend your ships in the open engagement. So A-wing can go 5, 6 for the size of a ship, 7 for a boost, and 8 for the size of the ship again. So now you've only got 3 to play with, which means even doing a 1 forwards with the size of your base, you're gonna be in range again. So luckily the shuttle can do a 0, which is why when Pal Paces was first a thing, that's why the 0 opening was important. Then it became self-blocking and then the 0, stuff like that. And also shuttles tend not to deploy on the 1 line anymore. So that gives you half the base length if you deploy on the back line. So let's see how it works out. It should still line up just in range because it's only half a base length. But it was 10. And a boost. Yeah. Yep. So that's the rule of 11, probably really badly explained. But you can see flying straight at your opponent when trying to defend your shuttle is a pretty bad plan. Sorry, the lighting is screwing up my green screen. Fun times. It probably wouldn't even noticeable to you guys, but it really annoys me. Anyway, so that's why the shuttle opening changed to be a cornered opening. I'm gonna have to zoom in here, make sure I'm not off the map. And that's a much better defensive deployment from a shuttle. As admittedly, doing a 1 bank is still gonna put you in range. If you bank into them, you actually get more forward movement from that turn as you would doing just a 1 forwards being baselined. But what it does open up is the bank right. So obviously this is a terrible idea. Even with a pulp shuttle against A-wings, you don't want to just hand them the chase on you. So this is not advice for how to fly against a single A-wing with a shuttle. It's just a demonstration of different types of openings and how the rule of 11 can affect it all. So an actual better opening from the A-wing, in my opinion. So we'll show off a different one again. If you want to be aggressive but not go stupid, it's simple. You just do the 5 forwards and don't boost. Then depending on the moves that the shuttle's got, so if we've deployed this way, the normal openings would be a left bank. If they really wanted to joust, they could do a 2 left. And if they're being really cagey and wanting to run away, you get the 3 forwards. The advantage of not having boosted is that you've got a much more open field to play with. You can dial in the 3 bank next turn if you've chosen either the bank or the turn. You can slow roll into them. You get to take your evade action just in case the shuttle had been more aggressive. I believe... I don't think there's a way you can get in from that one. Even the 3 bank. Yeah. So there's loads of different connotations of how it can affect it, but the rule of 11 is basically you are out of range until you have gone 11 base lengths into each other if you both set up on the range 1 line. You do add in half a base length if you've set up on the back line, just to be safe. So if you both set up on the back line and you're both small base ships, it's 1.5 and 1.5. So you're talking about a rule of 14 instead. But it's still those principles. You know, they're all known quantities. We know that range 1 is 2.5 base lengths. We know that the full range ruler is 7.5 base lengths. So using that information, you can plan your approach on different people, try and make sure that you're going to land just out of range and then get into your optimal range, whether it be your range 2 to fire any ordnance, or whether you want to just jump into range 1 and hammer with primaries or prockets and things like that. The other thing I wanted to talk about on this map in particular, or with this layout, I was surprised that people generally weren't aware of this, but I'll throw some rocks down. So the rocks have to be outside of range 2. So you know when people put the rocks down, you'll get a range ruler and push it in. So what I've noticed is that people, for some reason, weren't aware that if you are in line with this rock, you can actually do a 4K and it will fit. It's probably a really bad example. So as long as you are not past the line here, your 4K will fit. And that's because, as we've already established, 2.5 is 5. So you have to take into account the nubs, obviously. But if you are not past this rock, the 4K will fit. Large base ship, 3K, but you need to make sure you're a little bit more careful with the large base ships. Anything else? Oh, it's the one I wanted to just show. see if I can line this up. So we're just going to look at the shuttle with its firing arc. So if you run the range ruler along this edge, you can actually use it as a good tool for estimating where your banks are going to finish up. So the 2 bank finishes roughly at the range 1 line, roughly, on the actual tip of the bank. So we'll just have a play around. Turn the firing arc off that one. Okay, so left bank. So, I should not put that rock there now. You can use this information to work out exactly whereabouts you're going to finish up and try and use it to plan on your opponent's moves as well. So if you've got a turret, for example, doing the bank gives you a good amount of forward move from this corner, but you also move this corner across as well, so you're actually covering a lot more of the table over on this side. And it gets really interesting when you start looking at barrel rolls and boosts from large base ships as well. You can actually use these measurements to good effect, but you can see if you put the range ruler down, this corner is going to roughly finish up in line with the number in the 2. So you're going to, let's turn the ship off for a second. So we're trying to figure out whereabouts we're going to finish, because we want to say this is Tycho and we want to block him. If we do the 3, so you can check range to Tycho. Oh look, it's not in arc, anything like that. Or you can say you're using a Jump Master Wild Space Fringer, something you've got in the list purely for the purpose of blocking, even small base ships, stuff like that. But I find this does work better with a large base, just from, as you can see, where the actual ships are finishing up. So we know Tycho only has a 2 forwards as his slowest move. So the 3 is the one to block that one, but the 5 is unblockable without repositioning. So what you need to look at is obviously game state and everything like that, but you can use these measurements to actually work out the best move to dial in then, for example, if you've got Intel Agent, you can actually make it an exact science. So for the purposes of a non-repositioning ship, the 3 is your better move. If you've got repositioning, in fact, the 3 is just a better move, and I don't know what I'm talking about. The 3 is the best move here because you can then, say you're using a jump master, you've got a barrel roll left as far as forwards as possible. And you also have a barrel roll right. As backwards as possible. And that should show that every move you can counter. Where's it gone? Yeah, so you've got every block from the 3. If you're wanting to look at like Intel Agent, stuff like that, you can barrel roll for a better position next time. If you're wanting to let the ship get past you, you know that you can barrel roll this way. So using this range ruler, checking your arcs and stuff like that, it's all known information. If you've shot the ship, you know exactly what range it's at. So make sure you try and spend some time just getting your maneuver dial out, getting your range ruler, and just looking at whereabouts in your own arc and in your own range bands you finish. And then if you've got repositioning, look at the areas you can actually move to. And that's a good tip for trying to actually use these large base, more fragile repositioning ships. Like Dengar, for example, is extremely powerful if you fly him properly, but cannot handle getting shot if you miss position. Only having 9 health behind 2 agility, he will drop quickly. But if you can use all of this information and don't pass up on the opportunities to actually get the information, there is nothing wrong with checking ranges to a ship. Once it becomes the active ship in the combat phase, you check range with it. Don't just assume, I'm out of range, I'm not going to bother, or I'm at range 1 of my target that I want to shoot. What happens if you kill that ship? You still need to be planning for the turn after. So take the opportunity, measure your ranges, check whereabouts different ships are, and start planning for the overall game state, not just trying to kill the ship that's in front of you. I think that's probably a good place to leave this. I think I got a little bit lost in the middle, meandered a little bit, sorry about that. Hopefully you found it interesting enough anyway, and if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments. If you've got any other stuff you'd like me to talk about, let me know. And thanks